Ladies and gentlemen, fans all around the world, we're going to talk some boxing. Yeah, I just woke up. That's why my face is looking this way. And first thing I'm going to talk about with you guys is Roy Jones Jr. versus Mike Tyson. One of the most important things that I think a lot of you guys in boxing don't realize is that one, footwork is everything in boxing. But unfortunately, for a lot of people, they don't really understand what it means when we talk about footwork. They think of, okay, you said footwork, that means you got to move all around the ring. You're going to use a jab and you're walking all around the ring using the entire ring. No, footwork is where you place your feet in boxing. It's where you place your feet in boxing. And the trainer of Roy Jr., one of his trainers that he's going to have in his fight against Mike Tyson is going to be Tom Yankello. Check him out, Tom Yankello. Actually, subscribe to his channel. His channel is World Class Boxing. He's been the trainer of Roy Jones Jr. on certain occasions. He's been the trainer of Paul Spadafora. I mean, he's been the trainer of a lot of very successful fighters. And one of the things that all of these fighters seem to have in common is footwork. Whether you're an inside fighter, a very successful inside fighter, um, you are an outboxer, or you are a mid-range fighter, where you place your feet sets up how you position yourself. And as a result, it sets up how you're able to take advantage of spaces where your opponent may be vulnerable in his defense, or it may be taking advantage of spaces where your opponent can't really, when I say get to you, mean get into your vital organs or scoring points. So your feet are as important as your hands in boxing. In fact, where you position your feet in space, where you position your upper body in space, where you position your lower body in space, where you position your hands in space, where you position your head in space is more important in boxing than power, speed, uh, strength. They're more important than those things because you can have speed, you can have power, you can have strength, but you don't know how to use these things, or the opponent that you're facing knows how to use these things better than you do and can take those things and use. So the reason why dancing and boxing are synonymous with one another. And in fact, if you look at dancing, it's synonymous with a lot of sports, whether it be American football, whether it be basketball, you know, because these sports all deal with rhythm and timing. And dancing is a sport that deals with rhythm and timing and footwork. So if you don't have the footwork to match what you want to do in boxing, you're not going to accomplish it. So there is a way for Roy Jones Jr. to beat Mike Tyson, and it will have to do with where he places his feet in that ring. That will nullify anything that doesn't it doesn't involve extensive movement necessarily. Okay. And Tom Yankello is really good at training fighters and how to do that. Not just your footwork, but also encompassing your hands and your upper body and the movement of your upper body and how you need to coordinate those things to best not just neutralize what your opponent's doing, but also such an opponent. So, what's crazy about this fight, and it is crazy when I think about it now, Roy's going to be going up against a guy that's between 20 to 40 pounds heavier than him because Roy is not at this point in time a heavyweight. He's not a heavyweight, right? So the guy's going to outweigh him. He probably walks around 190, 180. By the time he's finished training, he'd be around 180, maybe 190, 190. 190's pushing it, but let's just say 190. Mike Tyson's going to come in 240, 230, 220. So at the end of the day, he's going to have Roy's going to have a substantial weight disadvantage against him. At least it will seem that way. I remember when he fought John Ruiz, again, he had a significant weight disadvantage. We think of Deontay Wilder on a continual basis, he has a significant weight disadvantage. And that could work against him if Mike Tyson puts his weight down. But when you think about what Roy's game plan is, it makes sense. Mike Tyson's going to come out there and push himself really hard for 3 rounds. But if Roy can get past those 3 rounds against Mike Tyson, then he's going to have a great. Now, doesn't mean that Mike Tyson's not dangerous or whatever, but it's going to be a much more even playing field. So the question is, how does Roy make it through those first 3 rounds? Footwork is going to make the difference. How he positions himself in space to make Mike Tyson miss is what's going to give Roy that opportunity. And we're not talking about moving all around the ring and excessive movement. We're talking about his footwork in close to negate Mike Tyson countering him. And his footwork also at mid-range where he'll be. And his upper body movement as well with that footwork that will enable him to have opportunities to hit Mike Tyson where Mike Tyson will not be able to hit him. And Roy is that kind of fighter. So if Roy has 1/4 of what he used to have in his prime, which he probably does, his mobility is severely restricted by his knees. So we're expecting him to have maybe 1/10 of the kind of mobility he used to have. If he has anything like that, how he uses his ring IQ, how he uses his ring smarts, increases chances of being successful against a Mike Tyson. Going on to other things in boxing, and we'll just scroll forward to today, because Roy's going on an uphill battle. Basically, possibly have. Roy is the one that doesn't really have as much advantages as Mike Tyson. So Roy's really the guy that's going to be deficient in that fight. I know the fight has been put back from September 12th, so it's not going to be this week. It's going to be in November, I think the 22nd of November. Now, why I like this matchup anyway is because I do believe that Roy is the much more technical fighter in this fight. I know that sounds crazy because y'all say, well, Roy doesn't really have all that technique, but he's going to be the more accurate technical fighter in this fight. Mike Tyson knows how to do things one way. He's really good closing the distance, getting past the jab, bobbing and weaving, changing head slots and head movement. And he can box, don't get me wrong. But the thing with Mike Tyson, there are 2 things that are the problem with Mike Tyson. One is Mike Tyson, though he's gone the distance a number of times with different fighters, right now he's pushing his body, doing sparring, all of that to get himself up to that level. Mike Tyson fights only one way. He's extremely good at what he does, but he only fights one way. Roy can fight several different ways. And he's improved on his inside game. And if he, once he gets that footwork correctly and how he positions his body, Mike's not going to be able to just toss him around like that, even though Mike will outweigh him. The thing that's going to be the catch-22 is if Mike is smart, he's going to use his weight and size against Roy and try and tire out Roy that way. Put all his full body weight on Roy. So Mike, smart boxer that he is, that's what he'll have to do if he wants to get a stoppage on Roy. If Roy goes the distance, we have no winner. We have no points decision win or anything. in exhibitions. But if he goes the distance with Mike Tyson, that would be a win for him. And how he showcases skills. If he outclasses Mike Tyson, especially late or whatever. But Roy has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, and Mike Tyson not just going to be able to barge through him. And he's a finesse fighter, so he's going to have some tricks up his sleeve. A lot of little tricks that Mike Tyson never seen at heavyweight because Roy's going to be quicker than him because he's a smaller guy than him. Roy's going to have the way how he may tie up Mike Tyson on the inside, especially I think Roy's pretty strong, is going to help him as well. But the point behind it is that I think that at the end of the day, Roy's greatest chance is in his footwork, upper body movement, and his lovely counters that he has. And he's good at sharpshooting. So if a guy throws like 100 punches at him, he's actually going to snipe in between. He's gonna throw punches in between. He knows how to disrupt a fighter as well with his punch selection. Roy was really a really nice cerebral fighter. You couldn't touch him in his prime because he knew how to keep range and he was relatively strong. Um, and he's worked on his inside game, I see, in his last couple of fights I saw. So I think that Roy brings a combination of really tricky things to Mike Tyson, who has not really um, in front of an audience in a very, very long time. So those things are going to work in Mike's favor. Even though Mike might try to come in not rusty, he's going to be rusty. Okay. And Roy needs that head start. He needs that get out the gate really quick, meaning he needs to start fast and sharp. And if Mike makes any mistakes, tag him immediately. Let him know, okay, this is a different category of fighter you're facing. So that's the key to a fight like that. Now, a lot of people are arguing about the exhibition. The WBC put their input in about headgear and 16-ounce gloves, and a lot of people want to, what should I say? They want to put controls in place. And we heard that the fight may have no headgear and I'm hearing 12-ounce gloves. So they're trying to make it as real as a real fight could be for the people who will attend this event. And I think they pushed it back so that people could attend the event. And even though COVID-19 is kind of a disruptor right now, and today's elections for me, I'm going to go vote afterwards for my country. Even so, I got to say that, especially in my country, where things are much better probably than elsewhere in the world, things are being normalized so that people can go to work and do various things. And we're gonna wait out the year probably to the end of the year and see if we can get audience attendance, and even if it's a minimal audience attendance with spacing, because we have had events, we've seen comic events, we've seen entertainment events where we've had minimal but still an audience there for response, and just having an audience for those two guys, even though it's on pay-per-view, by then putting it off further gives the guys more chances to get in shape as well as get some more audience there for the fundraisers and stuff, the charity event. But as to the exhibition fights have always been ones in which guys could get knocked out and stuff. It's the California State Athletic Commission. I don't know. In California, they're very strict on these things, so I don't know if they'll get through with no headgear. But it actually is ironically safer to have no headgear than headgear. So big, that. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. So, like I was saying, um, so yeah, the rules are strict. I don't know how it'll all work out with the California State Athletic Commission, but I don't see why they wouldn't allow this fight to happen with two professional athletes who know what they're getting themselves into. Yes, they're up in age, but there's a couple things you guys got to understand. Yes, Roy's been knocked out a couple times, so is Mike Tyson, and that is somewhat of a concern. But they're going to do CAT scans on him. All right, they're going to do CAT scans on them. They have to pass all the medical procedures and protocols before they can get in the ring and fight one another. And of course, the California State Athletic Commission is very hard on and very strict on senior guys going in the ring to do different things. That's the commission that's either going to allow this exhibition bout or not. Okay. And once that works out and they get cleared, however, exhibition bouts should be allowed. But I don't know. I think they may have to use headgear in California because I think they're pretty strict about that if they're going to do it in California. But as you know, to 16-ounce gloves, and I think that's up to them. I think. I don't know if that's a mandatory thing. I know the commissioner may attend that event, and I think he's going to. He says he's going to stop the event if they go and do something. I heard the commissioner say something like that along those lines. But honestly speaking, my personal opinion. Shout out to whoever this thumbed up and enjoyed this. You can also participate by leaving comments if you so wish. But at the end of the day, let me just be honest with you. These older guys doing this, I think it's great for the sport. I think it's hard. Let them go at it hard. Okay, let's see what happens. We have to sometimes roll the dice on certain things. And you know, somebody can get badly hurt. That is true. Shout out to Tommy Temper. That's who it is. Okay. Shout out to you, brother. Got a lot of things to ask you about the weekend fights and so on. What's your view on the weekend's fights? Jamal James beat um, shit, I forgot the Puerto Rican kid's name. Thomas Delorme. Yeah. He beat Thomas Delorme over the weekend, as well as we had what is it? We had a fight. It was Friday night. We had a good fight Friday night all of a sudden. But you know, we can talk about those weekend fights as well. And yeah. And also we could talk about also some stuff that appeared in the boxing media. Tyson Fury, just up to this morning, Frank Warren saying that Tyson Fury wouldn't wait on Deontay Wilder. Of course, that fight has also been postponed. In fact, I think I left a poll or something uh, on my community feed, asking you guys what do you think about um, COVID-19 just really affecting this year 2020 in terms of big fights. I mean, the only big fight that we're looking at here is Roy Jones Tyson. I think that's the only one that may come off this year. Looks like Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder is in jeopardy. We see Danny Garcia versus Errol Spence. It seems to be on. Javante Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz still seems to be on, but all the other fights it seem to be just fizzling off. All right. Teofimo Lopez versus Lomachenko doesn't even look like it might come out this year. It might, but doesn't look like it might. You know, Canelo can't even get an opponent. Ryan Garcia versus um Luke Campbell might come off, might not come off. We don't know. We'll see. Um, there was supposed to be this fight between Jorge Linares and I always forget the guy's name. Javier Fortuna. That looks like that's off because Jorge Linares has been tested and found to have COVID-19. The funny thing about this COVID-19, though, almost all of the athletes that have been tested with COVID-19, as Terrence Crawford so correctly said, are asymptomatic. They're not showing symptoms or anything. They seem to be perfectly healthy, which means what Terrence Crawford was saying, and I think I agree with him, to be more than likely not going to be affected by the virus in a severe way. Even though I'm going to vote and I'm not going with a mask, but I'm going with a shield. Transparent shield. I'm going to go out there and vote with people just for the appearances. I don't really care because it's not going to do me anything if COVID-19 gets me anyway, but I'm going to go out with a shield thing. But the point is that this COVID-19 thing is kind of upsetting boxing because fighters are going into they're being assessed with COVID-19. Whether in the case of Jamal Herring, it was a false positive, and that's the problem with these tests. They can be false positive. I prefer them to err on perfectly healthy, and it could be the test kits that people are buying are test kits that one in every 5 people, one in every 10 people get tested false positive for, which is terrible because when I looked at a fight that was supposed to happen between Angelo Leo and Stephen Fulton. That got canceled. Stephen Fulton got tested positive for COVID-19. I don't know if he actually had COVID-19. He was saying he feel like he was coming down with it. He and his coach, so maybe he did have it. But he's being tested. He's fine. I think he has a fight upcoming this weekend here. Rolly Romero, he was tested positive for COVID-19. Now, a lot of people say, well, you can use the mask to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Okay, if you've had COVID-19, you're not going to be virulent after a month or 2 weeks. Okay, you're not going to be virulent, so you can take the mask, put it off, and you already had it, so you don't have to worry about getting it again. So it's just like, for me personally speaking, this COVID-19 thing's kind of been affecting fights coming on. You think about other fights like that have been canceled. We've had a bunch of fights that have been canceled because of it. So we're going to see how it goes and how everything works out. But I'm excited. Over this weekend, not Jamal Herring, Jamal James, welterweight, undefeated. No, I think he has one loss against your Dennis Ugas, right? Jamal Herring got knocked out by your Dennis Ugas or beaten or something. But he came back and beat Thomas Delorme. A lot of people were thinking Thomas Delorme would take it, being aggressive, trying to follow the Dennis Ugas blueprint, but nope, didn't happen. Jamal Herring was the one who landed more punches and so on, and was more of the ring general, and he won the fight, man. And kudos to Jamal James on that, and hopefully more success to him in the future. We also had over the weekend a women's bout between Terry Harper and help me remember the lady's name. Anyway, feel that the opponent should have won and Terry Harper should have lost, but it was a close fight. I didn't get to see it yet, but I did see the results on Twitter. Carissa Shields, of course, tweeting it, and I'm following Carissa Shields and Terrence Crawford, which leads me to Terrence Crawford. We're seeing that a number of fights, you know, Terrence Crawford may have an option. I remember on the Last Stand with, hang on, the Last Stand podcast with Brian Custer, Terrence Crawford was talking about plans to face Manny Pacquiao, and that was about a month ago. But it seems like the plans have changed. Looks like Manny Pacquiao is looking at Mikey Garcia. Errol Spence had a comment about that. He was like, Pacquiao was hoping that Mikey Garcia would beat him so that he would face Mikey Garcia. He was saying about when he beat Mikey Garcia and called Pacquiao to the ring. And he feels like Pacquiao's ducking him. And Terrence Crawford has also expressed sentiments like that Pacquiao may be ducking. Listen, Manny Pacquiao right now. The man is 41 years old. Yes, he is a world champion right now. So all's fair game. And those guys should be chasing Pacquiao to get his legacy, etc. and all that. I get it. But me personally, just like how Floyd Mayweather faced Andre Berto, and I'm not hard on him. It was a cherry pick, but who cares? He faced everybody. Pacquiao's faced everybody. I mean, you can't ask anything more of Pacquiao. If Pacquiao wants to go after, he cleaned out his whole. He faced everybody of his era. Everybody that Manny Pacquiao was supposed to face, he faced, and he's done a little bit more. I think it's the Mayweather after effect where he got lost to Mayweather, so he wanted to redeem himself. But he redeemed himself he could have just beaten Timothy Bradley. Then he beat the next champion, WBO champion, Jesse Vargas, because he retired or something like that. He just stayed out of boxing, right? But he decided to add to his legacy, which is kudos to him. I mean, anyone wanted to smoke, you know what I'm saying? So it doesn't really matter what Pacquiao do from here on in. His legacy cemented in stone, just like Roy Jones Jr., Pernell Whitaker, Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya, the list goes on. Shane Mosley. I mean, their legacy was cemented in stone. They just kept on fighting, right? Pacquiao doesn't need to fight anymore. He doesn't need to fight. He doesn't. So Manny Pacquiao is just doing it because he loves to do it, and I'm happy with him. So anything he wants to do, he gets a pass. Now, if he's holding the WBA super champion belt, welterweight super champion belt at hostage, and he's not surrendering like how Mayweather was starting to do that, and then he let go of all the belts the following year, 2016. If he holds it hostage, that's a problem. Okay, but if he doesn't hold the belt hostage, I can't be mad at Manny Pacquiao. He can do whatever the hell he wants to do. He earned that right. He's earned that right. Okay, people. He was trying to debunk me again. There's no case against Mayweather. Like y'all don't have no case. Y'all never make a case why he's not TBE. And y'all guys' argument is he's not TBE, and you have never made a case for it. All right, none of y'all. I've dealt with a lot of people, and none of y'all have come up with cases where he's not. And you guys got to create and start to make up stuff to try and debunk that. Okay, nobody else in the history of boxing has been rigorously like grilled like Mayweather has concerning his resume, concerning his performances, etc. And none of y'all so far can come up with anything to show that he's not TBE. You don't come from emotional perspective. A lot of y'all are emotional when we dealing with these things, and y'all pull up fighters from 100 years ago. You pull up fighters from like the '60s, which 80 years ago. You pull up guys from way back, and it still don't. It never matches up. You can't deny the man what he said he was. All right, and he never said he was the greatest. He said he was the best ever, and they're based on facts. And so far, none of y'all can debunk that. None, none. I stand on solid ground when I say the man is TBE. I know what I'm saying. I ain't no Floyd Mayweather fanboy, none of that. It's just facts, okay? It's what it is, and the proof is in the pudding. Canelo Alvarez, arguably pound for pound number one in the world, assessed by the Boxing Writers Association of America as pound for pound number one. Board as pound for pound number one, assessed by BoxRec as pound for pound number one, assessed by ESPN as pound for pound number one, assessed by the Ring magazine. Y'all call it the Bible of boxing. That assesses pound for pound number one. Okay, even though it's Oscar De La Hoya owned, so I lost some credibility, but nonetheless, okay, Floyd Mayweather beat him. Y'all can say all much you want. Oh, he was green, blah, 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 blah. That's excuses. That's not factual. The fact is he beat him. That guy who's currently the number one guy in the world, or one of the top number one guys in the world, the top 10, top three. No matter how you look at it, slice it or dice it. Manny Pacquiao, currently the oldest welterweight champion in the world ever. Okay? Y'all argue, some of y'all, especially the Pacquiao fans, right? Y'all argue that he's arguably the greatest boxer that ever lived. Y'all argue that. I don't argue that. I say you have a case for it. I told y'all that time and time again. You'll have a case for it. No matter all the asterisks you have on his profile, you cannot deny that this man became world champion in 6 divisions and lineal champion in 2 extra divisions. And all of that is important. Okay. And I'm speaking from a factual basis and not speaking from, come from facts. Okay. So if you come and you say that, and then and on top of that, this man's been world champion in 4 decades, not continuously, but he's been world champion in 4 decades. That's some crazy ass shit right there. Okay. Mayweather's the longest reigning, this man is and this is some stats. These are facts. Okay. This man's been world champion in the 1990s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and uh, uh now the 2020s. Okay, that's a fact. All right, 4 decades. He's been world champion in each of the 4 decades. Now that's crazy, and he's currently world champion as we speak now. That's fucking phenomenal. PEDs, whatever. You can say what you want. All them other guys in the past, y'all gave him a pass on PEDs too. Roy Jones Jr., James Toney, Evander Holyfield, and y'all still say they're great. So when we talk about greatness, okay, all right, a lot of motherfuckers out here got caught with PEDs. I don't think Lennox Lewis got caught with PEDs. Lennox Lewis is another guy who can make a claim that he's the best ever. He can make that claim. He can make the claim. All right, he can make the claim, and we just have to sit back and say, well, y'all can't argue with it. Okay, Floyd did better than him, and he knows that. But the point is, he can make that claim. He can make that claim. All right, he can make that claim because Lennox Lewis beat everybody that he faced in boxing. Everybody, and we talking top tier guys. Okay, so no matter what y'all say, there's certain guys who, and y'all, some of y'all will argue with Rocky Marciano. I'll say not Rocky Marciano, but I gotta put hell of a fighter. Okay, he proved himself. I won't call him best ever. I'm tell you why. One, He only fought five people. Okay, I would say six, because Ronald Stars was a good one too. Okay, which is phenomenal people that he fought. Okay, no asterisks on him on that. But he only fought for like what? He was world champion for like how long? Like what? 5 years, 6 years? Okay, fought a hell of a lot of great fighters. Had rematches with them and stuff. But Lennox Lewis, okay, world champion for like 12 years, dominating. You know what I'm saying? When you think about what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying? 10, 9 years, something like that. Okay? Dominated. Dominated. You know, Rocky Marciano never dominated. He knocked out guys and stuff, but he didn't dominate the fights. You know what I mean? When I'm talking about dominate, I mean, what was the only war Lennox Lewis was in? It was like in one war. Klitschko. And he was starting to dominate Klitschko, hitting him with them uppercuts. All right, he busted up his eye early from a punch. It was no headbutt, a punch. Okay, dominant heavyweight champion. Okay, it's like a cat. Fought mostly from the outside, didn't really fight on the inside. Dominant. You know, should not have lost those two fights. See, that's the only thing on him. That's why he can't be TBE. Because he shouldn't have lost those fights. You know what I'm saying? He shouldn't have lost those fights. He knows it. We all know it. Okay? Came back, beat the brakes off of forgot what the guy's name is that beat him. Not Hassim Rahman. He knocked out Hassim Rahman in a brutal way. But I'm talking about Oliver McCall. He beat that boy. He got hit with a 1-2 so bad. He didn't even go back to his corner when the bell rung. He was just walking around the ring. He got beat so bad. All right. So, this man y'all know. You know, Oliver McCall. Lennox was no joke. He brought the heat. Lennox would whoop ass. He whooped everybody ass. You know what I'm saying? It was no joke. You know. We're going back to what I was talking about. So, yeah. In terms of fights that are coming up and so on, we got some good fights. Don't worry, guys. I'm gonna come through very soon, and I guarantee you guys, I'm gonna come through real soon with another feed on, the best ever, and we're gonna also talk about some other controversial topics in boxing. But I just wanted to spend a little time on guys like Roy Jones Jr. You know, people forgot how good Roy was. And he may not be the best ever. All right, he may not get that title, but one of the things I must say is he held it down, and he was one of the best ever to do it. All right, one of the best ever to do it. And the only reason he would never be called the best ever is because you got to look at the entire career of a fighter. You can't just look at their prime, and you'll say, well, some fighters don't have a prime. I'm be like, yeah, all fighters have a prime. But when you look at Roy's career in his prime, and like guys like to pull out singular fights and talk about how good this fight was that he faced and stuff. I mean, James Toney, the proof is in the pudding. Bernard Hopkins, the proof is in the pudding. Reggie Johnson, the proof is in the pudding. These are the guys that Roy Jones Jr. beat, okay? Okay, he faced Michael McCallum at the end of his career and all of that. So I'm going to leave Michael McCallum alone, put him aside there. But then you got Montel Griffin, the proof is in the pudding. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got lots of fighters that Roy Jones Jr. faced that the proof is just in the pudding. You know what I mean? He faced Felix Trinidad, legend. Okay, it's at the end of Felix Trinidad's career and stuff, but my point being, he faced him. You know what I mean? He faced Gonzalez, who's the guy that stopped. He went across the season. He stopped the guy that everybody said Roy did not face. He beat Virgil Hill, man, with a body shot. Virgil Hill was jabbing away to the body and stuff, and he just stopped him up. He just stopped him with with a right to the spleen, man. As Virgin Hill was about to throw his jab. It wasn't really the spleen shot that put him down. It was muscular spasm, but nonetheless, you know, Roy beat. And then we talking about Hall of Famers here. The guys that I mentioned are in the boxing Hall of Fame. Okay, um, you know, he beat well, Reggie Johnson not in the boxing Hall of Fame. Um, nor nor I just pull a blank sometimes. I think it's because I'm just so lazy. Um, so anyway, point is, because I just can't remember the name right now. Remember he faced Joe Calzaghe. He faced. I mean, this guy faced the who's who of the middleweight. Vinny Panzienza, remember Vinny Panzienza? The middleweight, super middleweight, light heavyweight. Antonio Tarver. He beat Antonio Fowler. I mean, come on now, people. And this is when he came back down from heavy. Oh shit, I forgot. He went all the way up to heavyweight and beat John Ruiz, who's the guy that beat Evander Holyfield. So Ruiz was coming off his greatest win, beating Evander Holyfield, and Roy came and beat John Ruiz. Come on, man, you gotta give it to him. I would love to see him versus Evander Holyfield as well. You know, I mean, Roy did some crazy stuff, man. He did some crazy stuff. Um, all of this in the height of his career, the peak of his career. From 1996 all the way up to 2003, he was the man. 7 years of dominance, dominating. Okay, dominating, and not just dominating, but dominating and dropping guys and shit. He may not be stopping all of them, but he was dropping guys. He was just on a different level to the guys that he was facing because his conditioning, and then his boxing IQ was crazy, and he was a smart fighter too. He played more checkers than chess, but he was a smart fighter. You know what I mean? Um, and people just underrate his boxing IQ and his boxing skill. He was a technician. Roy wasn't a slugger. Okay, he wasn't a slugger. He was very smart about what he did. His footwork, his offensive acumen, his sleekness, his slickness, his aggression, his finesse. You look at it, it's like a ballet with this dude. Um, Danced around the ring. Did his thing, but in a different way to Ali or Sugar Ray Leonard. He had a swag to him. You know what I mean? Roy was a bad boy. Okay, he was a bad boy. He backed down from nobody. Even though they talk about the Michalczewski, him not facing that dude, like going to Germany and facing that dude. But fact be told, okay, as much as they talk about Michalczewski and Michalczewski this and Michalczewski that, Darius Michalczewski didn't want to come to the United States to face Roy, right? He wanted to. How you going? The man's the pound for pound best in the world. The man is the superstar. The man is the attraction. Okay, how is it you don't want to go face him? You know what I'm saying? You don't want to make a fight. You don't want play King of the Mountain. So he wasn't confident enough in his skills to want to come across there. He wanted to stay in Germany, and if it wasn't for Gonzalez knocking his ass the fuck out, Gonzalez wasn't gonna get no decision. You know what I'm saying? So and of course Roy annihilated Gonzalez, right? Made him look like he was an amateur or something, or he never boxed a day in his life. Okay, we forget about these things. Now Roy didn't do it for his entire career like Floyd did. Floyd, you put a guy in the ring with Floyd, and I mean he gonna get you out of there even if he had to struggle a little bit. I've seen Floyd struggle with some fighters early in his career. I've seen him struggle with some fighters later on in his career. Okay, but I'm fighters, dominating them. Like you go in the ring and they look like they less than fighters. They look like they club fighters. In fact, Marcos Midano, who's a club fighter, did better than most of them. All right, he did better than Pacquiao. Man, I made his first fight. That's what gave him his second fight. You know what I'm saying? Man was still dominant. He didn't dominate. Well, yeah, he dominated him late. He dominated him late for sure. Marcus McDonald started making excuses about low blows and shit, and Floyd was like, "Shut up and talk, fucking fight." But I'm just saying, you know, clearly dominating fighters. Dominated all of them. He got robbed by Oscar De La Hoya. They tried to rob his ass, give split decision for Oscar. I was like, what the fuck? And Canelo to try to rob his ass again, Golden Boy. But by and large, he just dominated the scene. Like there was no question. People were like, going to fight me. What are the betting odds for Floyd? For these fighters, and they'd be like, man, betting odds are always in favor of Floyd. Always in favor of Floyd. Why? Because nobody expected him to lose. Nobody expected them to lose. I mean, Marcus McDonald kind of pulled a little surprise on all of us. It was like the first round when he hit him with that overhand hammer punch. I was like, God damn, Marcos, because Floyd was doing a number, and Marcus just came back with that overhand right. I was like, good God damn. And I said, oh, he the truth. What he did to Broner was no joke. And yeah, Marcus McDonald, man, he a bad boy. I would love to see how his career pans out. He's going to come back to boxing, which is another exciting thing. I'm looking forward to seeing who Marcus McDonald faces next. He's talking about rematch with Adrian Broner. That's a very exciting fight, in my opinion. When it's going to happen, I don't know because it's COVID-19, but it'd be nice for Adrian Broner to have his rematch with Marcus McDonald, even though Adrian Broner is not really a true welterweight. Duh. It will be an interesting fight. I would love to see it. There's so many upcoming fights that are exciting, but we don't know how ingrained in stone because these fights sometimes somebody gets COVID-19 positive and all of a sudden the fight's not on, or somebody's getting underpaid so the fight's not on. It's these kind of problems that really kind of bother us. I'm wondering just, in this COVID-19 environment, can we get back to some sort of normalcy with sports and entertainment? Well, we're going to see it soon enough. I mean, I'm tired of seeing people, on YouTube doing that thing, but we're going to see it soon enough. We just have to have a little bit more patience. I think we're going to ride out to this COVID-19 thing. I was listening to my boy, Mr. Bridge, and he was saying a very important point that, again, people need to have some awareness of. They're talking about defunding the police, like generally. And I say, don't do that, okay, in the United States of America. Now, demilitarizing the police is a good idea. Why do the police need to have such excessive weapons is beyond me. But here's the thing. My thing is this. I think that the police, if you're going to affect anyone, don't defund the police. Defund the police who are breaching the law. Defund those police. Affect them in their wallets, in their pockets. And the nepotism that happens in political circles that have to do with police, that nepotism needs to be stomped out. You find crooked people in there, they should lose their jobs. They should lose their jobs. Not just be suspended, but find a way and hit their wallets in their pockets. Let them go underground, be criminals. And when they go criminal, when you prosecute them to the highest extent of the law. I do not understand why police officers are coming off clean from horrendous cases where murder is involved. We have in the United States of America guys who have gone to prison for 20, 30 years for simply smoking marijuana. Okay? For smoking it. All right? And we have police officers of the law committing heinous acts of murder, not manslaughter, murder, and they have not been prosecuted. No, you can't have that happen, especially with crooked police officers. Now, some of them, by poetic justice, they get murdered themselves because they've been in, questionable activities anyway. But what I want to say is these guys who did murder and were accomplices to murder in the presence of several witnesses. Okay, these men should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. That is to say, the one who committed intentional murder, according to Fox News correspondent who was once a legal lawyer, this person should be tried and prosecuted to the full extent of the law for premeditated murder. And they're talking about life imprisonment. Okay, you can do that. But the death penalty is in order for that police officer, in my opinion. And the accomplices to murder, premeditated murder, or accomplices to murder, they should also be tried to the fullest extent of the law. Their lives should never be the same. Now, that doesn't happen. While the officers who do these things and get away, and Mr. Zuckerman, was it Zuckerman? Not Zuckerman. Whatever his name is, the guy who killed the young black kid. While these guys have gotten away, it seems they're not. They're targets all the time. There's a bullseye on them, and at any given moment in time, these people's lives can be taken from them. That's just the way how it goes. But still, at the same time, Zuckerberg, I think, was the guy's name, or something like that. At the same time, we cannot disrupt the policing of the country. Police officers are very, it's amazing, because black community may not agree with this, but some of the black community. But police officers are very important for still helping the society to grow. So it's very important that in every single society we have police. And some people say, well, we need to go back to the Wild Wild West where there's no police. I'm like, no, you can't. It's very important you have police. But I think there are two very critical things. One, the police must be screened. They must be productive members of society, not just with a good record, but literally giving back to the society that they're in. I think that enforcers and law enforcers particularly are very important to keep a civil society. But because I live in an all black country, and quite frankly, Trinidad and Tobago is great. The police officers are very understanding, and they stamp on certain people sometimes because of stereotypes, but for the most part, at least, they're relatively reasonable. Okay, it depends where you're living, so that's another thing. But honestly speaking, the police need to be consistent throughout a country. I don't care what society or culture you're in. You should know that culture. You should understand the people in that culture. You should be a humanitarian, means you should consider human beings first before everything else. I know you may be in an environment where it's all about criminals, and there's a lot of criminal activity, and you got to be of a certain mindset. But at the same time, you have to be able to realize you're dealing with living human beings. This is not some sort of animal or pest. I gotta go out now. It's already 50 minutes into the video. I want to talk about another video that I put up a stream and I had to take it down. And I believe that stream was focused on a particular subject. Let me just spend about 2 minutes on it. So one of the things that I was talking about in a previous stream was that fighters and fights that are happening this year, that they are less likely to happen because, one, fighters going to ask for their worth in money, and two, and the networks need to understand this. And sometimes promoters may have to lose money in order to gain money later on. So we're having a series of fights that are put out on ESPN. We have some on DAZN. Now we're going to have some more on Showtime. And congratulations to Angelo Leo on winning the Super Bantamweight WBO Championship of the World. Good to him. Um, I wanted to talk also in that previous video about fighters who are not really recognized for their output in boxing. It was a very interesting topic because I have about a minute left. Because when you look at the losing effort of Yuri Foreman versus Mika Cotto, and the opportunity when the referee saw and reversed the decision of his own corner that threw the towel into the fight to end the fight to allow Yuri Foreman to continue to fight and try to win. And I talk about this aspect of boxing that a lot of people don't understand and respect. And until you've gotten into the square circle or you've done a little bit of sparring or something, anything that had to do with boxing, you realize how much commitment it takes for a guy to have done all this training camp and everything and really have that desire to win. An incident happens, kind of puts him back, and he still feels he can win. And I feel like that's the beauty of boxing. And sometimes it's not appreciated, even in a losing effort. And I think today, especially in this day and age where people feel if you lose a fight, that's it for you or your career for some dumb reason. And they don't look at all the stuff you've done. I look at Adrian Broner, for example, as a perfect example. And I talked about this, how he faced all these world champions, all these great fighters, especially at welterweight, which is not even a weight class he should be in. And, you know, everybody doesn't really look and appreciate what he's done with respect to that in the sport of boxing. And I pulled the string. But I'll try and address a little bit more of that sometime because I want to talk more about boxers who are not appreciated as much. I talked about Carlos Molina, so you guys can go check out my community feed with Carlos Molina. I've also, of course, Your Drunken Master, aka Emmanuel Burton Augustus. And I'll be talking about several other guys. And you know, some of the other things is that there are so many world champions out here. So many world champions. I'm talking about winning world champions. I'm not talking about guys who are like, regular champion while there's a super champion. Or I'm not talking about those guys. I don't care about a regular champion. I reversed my decision. I used to say that the regular champion was a champion, but I don't agree with that no more. The super champion is the champion, okay? If you got a franchise champion and you have a regular champion, the franchise champion is the champion, okay? The regular champion is like an intermediate, interim champion, really, or the regular champion. Yeah, either case, okay? I look at the franchise champion as a guy who's ducking the regular champion. You really should face the regular champion, who's supposed to be the interim champion. The interim champion is supposed to have first shot at the regular champion. And Manny Pacquiao's done that. He went up against Keith Thurman because he was the regular champion. Keith Thurman was the super champion, and he became the super champion. Okay, and there's several other incidents like that in history. So you should never have in a sanctioning body multiple world champions. That's bullshit. Okay, you look at the guy who's the top champion there, and that's the real champion. Okay, now with respect to what I was going to say, which was that there's several world champions in the history of boxing that never got no shine. Nobody even talks about them. And so I'm going to try and spend some time going through some of these guys, maybe in my next stream, so you guys can join in for that. Of course, I said, and I still maintain, I'm going to try to bring in after the 15th. So you got to wait till after the 15th. Today's the 10th, so we only got 5 more days. And when StreamYard replenishes my account, I'm going to come back here. We're going to go through all of the, I can't go through all of them, in different weight classes. I'm going to look at some of the world champions who, were world champions. Just mention them and their stories. And I can think of Stephen Little is one of the guys who beat Michael Nunn by split decision. He beat 2 actually really great world champions. Nobody knows about Stephen Little. Nobody talks about Steve Little. But Steve Little was a journeyman actually. He had a journeyman record and still managed to beat Michael Nunn. Still, man, I think he was 2-time world champion. Okay, so you guys need to check that out. But I'm gonna get into all of that, and we start really talking about and chopping up some boxes and boxing history. That a lot of people don't know too much about. And you can actually go watch their fights as well. So I'm not just gonna. It's fairly recent. Like I'm gonna say that we're gonna look first at WBC and WBA champions. So we're looking at guys from 1962, 1963 onwards. Okay, like Emil Griffith was the first welterweight world champion that was WBC, WBA. See, so when we look at and go through history, with Jose Napoles, Emil Griffith, some guys who upset those two guys and had little trilogy things going on. See, there's a lot of stuff that went on in boxing that we don't really talk about today. So I'm gonna talk about that, and that's why I was kind of glad in Floyd Mayweather TBE when we were having that little debate. Guys brought up other guys in boxing. Some of them I know, and some of them I don't know. You know, and some guys come up with some really superfluous arguments that are really stupid. But by and large, just dropped out for a minute, but don't worry about it. Yeah, by and large, it's really an interesting discussion, and it gives us an opportunity to discuss other fighters in history. See, the one thing about me, you'll realize, even though I will speak, if I'm talking about the best ever, I'll talk about the flaws of fighters and stuff. And some people say I'm a Duran hater. I'm not a Roberto Duran hater. You crazy? But when I'm comparing fighters with fighters, is I'm showing the shortcomings of fighters. I'm showing their styles. I'm showing that their boxing records and what they did and what they didn't do, what they were vulnerable to, what they weren't vulnerable to. So I don't hate Roberto Duran. I don't hate Manny Pacquiao. I do hate Triple G. I am a Triple G hater. Okay, but I give him his fair shake though. I give him his fair shake. I still haven't gotten over Triple G. Like Triple G's like one of those guys that still annoying me because of what even how he won his IBF belt against Derevyanchenko, who I thought beat him. And it just a number of things where people have this bias about Triple G, like he has this great defense and he has a great this, and I'm like, no, he doesn't have a great defense. He doesn't have a great defense. He does not have a great defense. Okay, if you want to talk about how he sets up his offense, how strategic he is, how he's very surgical with his offense, I give you 100%. I give you all the props with that. Okay, he's like Costa Zoo. He's even better than Costa Zoo because he can really cut off the ring really well and stuff like that. But when you're talking about his defense and you say he has a great defense, I'll be like, fuck out of here. That's like saying Julio Cesar Chavez had a great defense. Or even Roberto Duran had a great defense. They don't have great defenses. Okay? They don't have great defenses. Okay? Duran gets clocked by everybody. Everybody hits Duran. Why do you think Duran get knocked out by Thomas Hearns? He's hittable. God damn it. Yeah, on the inside, he's a little tricky on the inside and how he positions his body. But he's not a great defensive fighter. I don't even know why they even say that. They say it still to this day. He's not a great defensive fighter. Let me tell you what Roberto Duran is in this sense. He's a bully. Bait and counter bully. Don't have a great jab. Okay? He's a bait and counter bully. He'll bully you to the ropes. He push himself into you and bully you to the rope. You get under your punches and ride with your shots, which is great. But it ain't nothing great because they still catch him with shots on the inside. And they catch him with shots to the head. They just don't go to his body enough. All right? That's like saying Marcus McDonough is a savant when it comes to defense. He got underrated defense. Both Duran and Marcus McDonough got underrated defense. But they both get hit. And they get hit flush. Okay? They get hit flush. But Duran got a hell of a chin. Same thing with Julio Cesar Chavez. Get hit flush. I've seen Chavez box, though. Against Jose Ramirez and against... the kid's name. I've seen him box. He can box off the back foot pretty decent, but let's be real here, okay? Ain't a defensive whiz, okay? They're not great. They don't have great defense. Let me tell you somebody who's an infighter who had great defense, okay? Benny Briscoe. He had great defense. Slippery as fuck, okay? Henry Armstrong, great defense. Okay? You're not clucking Henry Armstrong, you're not seeing your head snapping back and that kind of shit. So when you talk about great defensive fighter, you don't have to be an outbox or slick or nothing. No, but you can be an infighter. But you can't be. That's like saying Diego Krause has a great defense. He doesn't have a great defense. Okay, he didn't. Neither does Jose Luis Castillo. Underrated? Absolutely. Durant, underrated defense. Julio Cesar Chavez, underrated defense. I agree with that. Great defense, my ass. And like this is the thing I try to explain to people. Like, stop. If you don't understand what great defense is, great defense. It means you hardly get hit with shots. Boxing Monster, what's up, my bro? It means you hardly get hit. Chavez get hit with the kitchen sink. He got it. That's what they said. Roger Mayweather was tagging his ass. Okay, so you can't be having a great defense and getting tagged up like that shit. That's like I saw Gennady Golovkin take a 4 or 5 punch combination in his face. Shit, that's not great defense. Fuck out of here with that shit. Okay. So when people tell me, oh, they had great, no, don't say that shit. Underrated, absolutely, I can give you that. All right, they're not pinatas. Okay, they're not just getting hit with every single shot you throw in the book. Okay, even though sometimes they do. But not great defense, bro. Not great defense. Okay? They don't have that. Right? So let's stop with that bullshit. And so, I remember my dude, what's his name? Boxing Beats and Rhymes saying that Chavez had great defense. I'm like, what the fuck you talking? Man, I lost my shit on that stream. I remember that. They kicked me off the stream for that. I was like, what the fuck you talking about? He got great defense. What the fuck is that mean? He said, well, he was hardly hitting stuff at super featherweight and light. I was like, get the fuck out of here with that shit. There are times when I just get mad. I lost my shit on that. I was like, fucking, what the fuck you talking about? He known for his chin. Because he gets hit on his chin. And it was like he ride punches and shit. And I was like, fuck out of here. Because Chavez got hit flush, okay? Madonna get hit flush. GGG get hit flush. They get hit flush, okay? They just do. They tough motherfuckers, okay? Do they underrated defense? Absolutely, 100%. I agree with that. But like a lot of people don't realize that, like, the assessment of fighters, and I've heard a lot of fighters say, well, Durant, he don't get hit as easily as you would think he get hit. I can 100% go right with you on that. But don't tell me he's a savant. Like you can hardly touch him, you can hardly find him. Don't tell me that. He's not one of those guys. All right? Not even Sugar Ray Robinson had hell of a defense, and we'll still say he has great defense. But he didn't have defense like a Colonel Whitaker or a Floyd Mayweather or a Willie Pep. He didn't have that kind of defense. He got hit. When I say fighters get hit, because a lot of people just don't never understand what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you throw your money punch and you catch them. When I say get hit, I'm not just talking about like you get touched with a punch or you get grazed with a punch. I'm not talking about that kind of shit. I'm talking about they get hit flush. Boom! And they connect. Flush. All right? Sugar Ray Robinson used to get hit flush, okay, with certain punches. All right? Got dropped with flush punches. He got knocked out the ring with flush punches. Okay, while he was welterweight, Jake LaMotta knocked him out the fucking ring. Okay, so when we're talking about getting hit flush, we're talking about getting hit flush. Okay, count the number of times Mayweather get hit flush. Count the number of times Colonel Whitaker get hit flush. But Roy got hit flush later on in his career. But when he was in his prime, count the number of times Roy Jones Jr. got hit flush. See what I'm talking about? All right, there's a different category of fighter. Different category of fighter. You know what I mean? Boxing Monster says Gaddy had the worst defense in the world. For sure, for sure. It was underrated though. He had decent defense. He had a decent jab. Chavez was hit about 35% rate in his prime. Gaddy was around 40% rate. Go look at Oscar fight. For sure. I'm not saying no. He was known for his blood, guts, and gore and toughness and that kind of thing. That was what Gaddy was known for. But my point being, don't disagree with you, brother. You're 100% correct. My point anyway is not, Gaddy he got in the Boxing Hall of Fame for a totally different reason than his boxing, okay? He got in there because he took a lot of punishment and he was known, all right, that's what he got in there for. He didn't even get in there for his two divisional championship wins and all that kind of stuff. He got hit because of the fights he got into. And he fucked up. So he got into the Boxing Hall of Fame for fucking up, which I wouldn't get in. I don't think that's a good thing for somebody to get into the Boxing Hall of Fame for. He's a Hall of Fame because he fucked up. Gaddy will even tell you that Gaddy Ward fight, that first one, he fucked up. And he knows he fucked up. Okay. So I don't even know why people praise that. They're like watching the extreme of human endurance, and I'm like, and that's not what boxing's about. You shouldn't be congratulating somebody on, that was a great performance. Be like, no, that wasn't a great performance. Actually, that was a terrible performance. That's like Thomas Hearns, versus Marvin Hagler. Everybody praising Thomas Hearns for the greatest 3-round event ever. Thomas Hearns be looking at y'all like, man, I fought a fucking stupid ass fight. I could have beaten this guy easy. Look how Sugar Ray Leonard did it. I could have beaten this motherfucker if I just stuck to a game plan, then instead of going out there like an asshole and trying to go power for power, and I just came up in the weight class. You know what I mean? Thomas Hearns had everything to beat Marvin Hagler. Everything. He had reach. He had height. He was more mobile. He was faster. He had everything to beat Marvin Hagler. So why did he go in there and decide to go toe to toe? He didn't even inspect the dude. He just went out first round, started blazing. Why would he do something stupid like that? And he couldn't even maintain that pace anyway, right? Trying to get Marvin Hagler out of there. That's the dumbest game plan ever. You look at Thomas Hearns at super middleweight, how he fought Sugar Ray Leonard. Smart, smart, smart. I picked that Thomas Hearns over that dumbass that went to fight Marvin Hagler any day. Anytime I show people the film of Thomas Hearns versus Marvin Hagler, I say this is how not to fight a fight. Don't fight like this. Okay? Use your brain. Okay? You got superior skills. Okay? You got the quicker feet and hands. You got the range. You got the reach advantage and the height advantage. Use it. Do not fight like this, okay? If I show a Turigati fight against Andrew Boy, I say, you see the first half of that fight? Fight like that. See the second half of that fight? Don't fight like that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, people praise some of the dumbest ass shit ever, Now, I can understand if the fighter's giving his all and then drama starts happening, he gets injured or something, like what happened with Yuri Foreman versus Cotto or whatever. I can see the heart in the guy. I can see the guy's desire to win. And if he can pull it off, I'll be like, But if you're not limited, you got all this ability, all this skill, you got all these things working for you, you dumbass. I'm not praising you for that shit. Everybody like, oh, Hagler versus Leonard, Hagler won that fight. I'm like, you got to be out of your fucking mind. How Hagler can beat a guy who be outsmarting him, making Hagler fight his fight, okay? Tagging him when he wants to, okay? Yeah, he started getting caught up and tagged in the later rounds because he was getting tired. How you going? And the dude, this is the funny thing about it. Leonard wasn't really a middleweight, right? He didn't really have all this power. So if Leonard could beat Hagler with the abilities he had, Thomas Hearns could more than beat Hagler with the abilities he had. Which all goes to prove that Thomas Hearns fought that fight stupid. Okay? Now he fought the Leonard fight smarter. Okay? He fought within his abilities. But unfortunately for him, when he fought Sugar Ray Leonard, he wasn't as tough as Sugar Ray Leonard was. Sugar Ray Leonard was tougher than him. He was more better conditioned for a fact. Okay? And on top of that, he was coming at Hearns with an intensity and a pace that Hearns could not maintain. It was mostly the pace that really got Hearns down, right? So at the end of the day, Hearns was not in control of that fight. Leonard did the smart thing because Hearns at the time couldn't fight. He couldn't fight for shit. So Hearns was getting beaten on the inside. All right. So Leonard closed the gap and started beating his ass up on the inside, and that was it, right? That's why anybody tell me that Hearns would knock out Mayweather, I'll be looking at y'all like y'all out of your flipping mind. You gotta be crazy. It's not gonna happen. Okay, it just never was going to happen. Not that Thomas Hearns at welterweight. Yeah, ask me about the super middleweight Thomas Hearns. That's a totally different story now. Okay, you take that super middleweight Thomas Hearns, somehow shrink him down to the Thomas Hearns that was at welterweight. That Thomas Hearns is a problem for anybody. I've told people this over and over again, just from my boxing IQ, boxing knowledge that I accumulated over the years. I can tell you that it was a complete Thomas Hearns. That Thomas Hearns never got stopped. Okay, he got stopped, I think, later on in at cruiserweight, right? It wasn't really a stoppage, right? But he did get beat up by Uriah Grant, but he never got stopped after that. That's because that Thomas Hearns had all round game. He could fight on the inside. He was smarter. He was a much smarter fighter. He still got rocked, but he was able to maintain and handle himself a lot better. And I explained to people over and over again, and he did beat Sugar Ray Leonard, and Leonard admitted it. Um, I explained to people over and over again, if you're talking about that Thomas Hearns is a problem for Mayweather. All right. I don't know how Mayweather would get around him because he could fight on the inside, he could fight on the outside. He paced himself better. He had better defense. Um, he was a much more complete fighter than the Hearns that was at welterweight, which everybody's saying that's the prime Hearns, and I'm looking at them like y'all out of your fucking mind. See that super welterweight Hearns that went into light heavyweight and dominated? That Thomas Hearns was the prime Hearns. Okay, but a lot of people would never see that because they're only looking at the knockouts and all that shit. But they don't understand Thomas Hearns had all that. He now had all the knowledge he needed to have. He was smarter. And that Thomas Hearns is the one that really people really talk about. When they think about Thomas Hearns at welterweight, they think about that Thomas Hearns. But the Thomas Hearns at welterweight wasn't fully developed yet, which a lot of people just don't realize. And they think of Thomas Hearns as the Thomas Hearns from super middleweight all the way up to light heavyweight and even up to cruiserweight. That Thomas Hearns is a different Thomas Hearns. Okay, I'll tell y'all that right now. But uh, I say all of this because I'm so excited to talk about boxing to let you guys know that that when it comes to the sweet science of boxing, Boxing Monster says styles matter. You can't be a great combination fighter and still be a great defender. Why not? Why not? If you pot shot, you increase your defense advantage. Chavez and Duran never threw one punch at a time. No, no, no. I disagree with that again. I disagree with that again. All right. I know of Roy Jones Jr. was a combinational puncher. Of course, he wasn't just a combinational puncher. He was a pot shotter and combinational puncher. You can be a combinational puncher. Floyd Mayweather Jr. when he was younger, Pretty Boy Floyd was a combinational puncher. He had his defense still. No, no, you can have defense, but you see the difference is, which a lot of people, Henry Armstrong, combinational puncher, right? Superb defense. Okay, did he get hit every now and then, but not like I ain't. Of course, uh, once you're pressuring a fighter, you're more likely to be out of position, and that fighter could have an easier time countering you, um, if you're not smart enough, at least. um, so it's a little bit harder coming forward to keep your defense tight. So I give you that because you do make a point. Not so much the point of combination throwing, because when you're throwing a lot of punches, here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. It depends on what angle you're throwing them at. So let's say, for instance, I form a T angle on you. Let me say I come to the side of you on your weak side, right? And I'm killing you with combinations on this side until you turn into me, right? I can do whatever I want with you. And by the time you turn into me, I pivot again back to the center line. I throw an uppercut straight up the center, and I come back with a left hook, right? And if I want to, I pivot again. Once you pivot there, I pivot again to the side of you. Vasily Lomachenko hardly gets hit with a punch. He's a combinational puncher. See? Pivot work. You know what I'm saying? So I don't agree with that. I don't agree you can't throw combinations and you'll be open for shots. It depends on where you're throwing those combinations, what angle you are at your opponent. Okay? Mayweather was a pot shotter, but he changed his style because his hands broke down and his shoulders. So he had to make every punch count. So he started sitting down more on his punches, perfecting his jab to the pit and that kind of stuff, and using his feet a little bit more, right? But Pretty Boy Floyd, fuck out of here, man. He's crazy, man. Look at how Pretty Boy Floyd handled Arturo Gatti, right? Same thing, combination of punches, right? But he always positioned himself so that he couldn't get countered. So that was the defensive part of that. So I don't agree that when you throw more punches, that means you're open for more shots. It depends on where you're throwing those punches. You can get countered. I guess you can throw occasional combinations. No, I don't agree with that. That's what I'm trying to say. It depends on the level of opponent as well, who could match what you're doing. So, for example, if you try to just scoot around weak side on a guy, who knows you're going weak side? Okay, you didn't trick him, and he pivots with you because all he has to do is just turn his body. He just has to pivot his upper body into position, and he's there facing you again, and then you're not weak side anymore, right? So it depends. Like Gaddy, it wasn't. Let me tell you, Gaddy did well until he got hit and knocked, and he got knocked down. Remember, he got hit in the head, and he was looking at the referee like, "Hey, man, this guy held me and hit me," and then he got hit, and he got mad, and he threw his game plan out the window. His game plan was real simple: stay low, come in off the jab, pop him with the jab, pull back out. All right, and he was doing a pretty good job for the round one and most of round two until he got dropped. So it wasn't that Arturo Gatti. See, because a lot of people think slowness and speed, it had nothing to do with it. Why Marcus is not as quick as Pacquiao? Stopped him, right? Marcus McDonald wasn't as quick as Floyd Mayweather. Nailed him with nailed him with that counter right in the third round, right? Um, Eric Morales wasn't as fast as Pacquiao. Didn't even have good foot speed. Beat him in the first fight, right? I can go on and on and on with fighters who are not as skilled or as Alejandro Gonzalez Sr., right? Beat Kevin Kelly, right? Kevin Kelly southpaw. Skilled. Don't mean shit. It has to do with your gameplay and your IQ. So and it may have to do with a little bit of your chin as well. But the point is, it's not how fast you are, right? Gaddy lost focus, wanted to bang with Mayweather. That's the stupid thing to do, especially if you're so fucking slow. You got to use your timing. He was getting his jab in the first round, and parts of the second round, he was getting some jabs in, and he was doing some stuff, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, it wasn't so much the speed or the quickness. It has to do with timing. You can be fast how much the fuck you want to be fast, right? You can be quick as much. You got to stay with rhythm and timing. It's like a dance. There's only so fast you can go if you want to catch the opponent and really catch them off guard and stuff. So you may have to slow yourself down just to deal with the guy. Oscar B. got it worse than Mayweather did before Mayweather. All of them Italian fighters are HBO overrated. I mean, I'm not saying no. I'm just saying I don't disagree with you. They are overrated. Gaddy was overrated. But my point is, Gaddy did beat some good guys in his time. At super featherweight, he beat this guy. What's his name? To win his first championship. Floyd Patterson's adopted son or nephew or something like that. Right? I forgot what his name is. Solid inside fighter. Gaddy has a very good jab. Very, very good jab. Then he went on to beat the known guys of the day. I think it was Gabriel Ruelas or one of them guys. He beat some good guys at the lower weight classes. Okay, he was good. He wasn't the greatest fighter of the all time. He won. I mean, B minus C plus level fighter. Yeah, right. That was a Arturo Gatti, but he was an attraction, right? And I think when he beat Tally, Pete Tally, whatever the fuck his name is, Tiafermo, whatever his name was. I think it's Tiafermo or Tiafermo, I think it was. When he beat him, okay, that was an upcoming prospect. They realized something was special about him because he wasn't supposed to win the fight. Right? Gaddy came from Canada and he pulled it off. So I'm just saying, Arturo Gaddy, underrated fighter, underrated boxer, because Buddy McGirt was the guy that started training him later on. He had some good boxing IQ and everything like that. He even explained that he fucked up against Mickey Ward the first time. Mickey Ward was always a tough fighter. Asked Zab Judah. Zab Judah said the toughest fighter he ever faced was Mickey Ward. But Gaddy was able to outbox him in the other two fights. They were still kind of a bit gory at a certain point, but Gaddy was able to pull it through because he kept on pushing his head in the pocket. I don't understand why Gaddy would do that. He just do it as a habit, and then get tagged up. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing that for, Gaddy? I never understood that. But Gaddy, he was a decent fighter. Don't get me wrong. Um, he was a decent fighter. I mean, Oscar did really start tagging his ass up in the fourth round. And then the fifth round got him out of there. But Gaddy was a good fighter. Oscar's a phenomenal fighter. I was just recently watching him in an exhibition, just how easy he was just handling what's the kid's name? I forgot what the kid's name is from um I even forgot the TV show, TV series. Saved by the Bell, I think it was. You know what I'm talking about. Mario Lopez. Those exhibition performer. And just how easy he was just touching the guy. He wasn't, putting no umph on anything, but he just tagging him in the head, left hooks, digging to the body, pull counters, all kinds of fancy things Oscar was doing to Mario Lopez. Yeah. But it's just how you see the out of shape, out of weight Oscar, and you just having fun with him, Everybody's praying because Mario Lopez is walking down Oscar, right? And Oscar just tagging his ass up. I was like, that was a real fight. Mario Lopez be on the ground dead already. Like, the kind of shit that Oscar was doing to him, but again, a lot of people don't really understand boxing, so it's like they're not really watching it what Oscar really was doing. And Oscar's all puffing in the third round, just walking around the ring. And I was saying to myself, man, Oscar was such a phenomenal fighter that, even when I look at his fight with Felix Trinidad, just looking back in memory lane, was watching, his fight with Shane Mosley and Felix Trinidad. And I was like, man, this dude just so easily handled Trinidad. Like, he handled him like he was nothing. You know, this was supposed to be the great boogeyman and everything. And how Oscar handled Felix Trinidad was just like, mwah. It's like, the man could fight. The man could fight. Oscar could really fight. He didn't get the decision, but he should have got that decision in my book. He should have beaten Felix Trinidad. Felix Trinidad was surprised he even won the fight. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. It was actually a robbery if you really think about it. What rounds did Felix even? What rounds did Felix win in that fight? No, seriously. What rounds did Felix Trinidad win in that fight? He was just walking down Oscar and taking punches. Okay. In the later rounds, he kind of touched him a little bit. Oscar rolled a punch and. I mean, that was a robbery. Let's be real. But again, Oscar did lose to Pernell Whitaker, so I can't like it. I say, it is what it is. But he beat him. He beat him, and he beat Shane Mosley the second fight. Come on, man, beat Shane Mosley the second fight. 11-12. He didn't win. He didn't do shit in 11-12. Felix didn't do shit in 11-12. Okay, Oscar didn't throw much punches, but Oscar was the one that was connecting the. Come on, man. It is what it is. All right, it is what it is. I didn't like Oscar growing up. I didn't like him. Okay, I like him now. It's sad, but that's just the way how it goes. Sometimes you appreciate a boxer after they're long gone. But you just look at Oscar's fights, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. Oscar ran my ass. He didn't run at all. He just boxed around the ring. He used the entire ring. He took it easy. He took it off. He was like, close to victory right now. He took the 11-12 off. I agree. All right. He took the 11-12 off. He did just enough. Get this smoke. What's up? Peace, brother. He took the 11-12 off. But come on. Like, seriously. What did Felix do to win that fight, man? Come on. He ran worse than Whitaker used to. Well, Whitaker used to turn you in a circle. He didn't really run. But my point is, it does not matter. It doesn't matter. He beat him. You know what I'm saying? If you want to take 2 rounds off him, okay, so he's running. Why didn't Felix cut off the ring? Why didn't he cut off the ring on him? All right. This was Felix's chance. Oscar wasn't throwing much offense. This is your chance to get in the fight and knock him out, right? That's what Felix do. Why didn't he knock him out? Man, come on. If we're being honest, Oscar won that fight easy. Easy. He even at the end of the fight, he was like raising his arm. His corner was like all happy and everything because they needed to beat him. was easy work. And he made it look easy. He made this so-called boogeyman. He made it look like he was nothing. Just a zombie walking around. Oh, come on, man. Where's the love for Mike Alvarado? He was an all right fighter, man. He was all right. Boxing Monster Tito was slow-footed. Yeah. He was a flat-footed fighter. He wasn't really not necessarily slow-footed. He could be quick. You know, Fernando Vargas fight, he was pretty quick closing the distance on him. But even Fernando Vargas was outboxing his ass. But keep on trading those fucking left hooks. What was wrong with Fernando? Maybe Tito knocked his brain loose and he feel like he could throw. And he kept on trading left hooks. If he boxed him and just forgot about the left hook, he'd have beat him. Unanimous decision. Easy. Even though he got dropped. You know, it is what it is. I mean, and then Perno, for some reason, decided, I'm going toe to toe with Felix Trent. I was like, God, so I don't want to be robbed again. I gotta stop this guy. I'm like, Perno, you don't stop nobody. Perno Whitaker was a trip, man. Decided he's gonna try and stop Felix Trinidad. My God. Felix and Vargas traded nut shots. Man, I don't know what the fuck was wrong with Vargas, man. Threw away that fight. But anyway, back to what I was saying about Oscar. Oscar was a hell of a fighter, man. Hell of a fighter. Hell of a fight. I look at his fights now and I'm like, God damn, I wish I had given this guy credit. I just didn't like him. I don't know why. Boxing Monster said, I blame Robert Garcia for the wasted career of Fernando Vargas. Vargas went into some fights that he probably shouldn't have gone into because he didn't have enough experience. But he took them. Mad props to Vargas. I give him a lot of props for that. You know, there was a lot of guys that didn't want to just step in the ring and step up to the plate. And he was like, let me have him. Let me have him now. You know, he was a young guy. You know, gotta give him his props, man. Give him his props. He lost some fights he probably should not have lost, but here's what it is. I mean, he had a lot of heart, too. He had a lot of heart. Can't just use your heart, man. You gotta use some of this. You know what I'm saying? You gotta use your brain. And you know what's the weirdest thing? Senior, Robert Garcia's father, used to tell him to fight smart. You know, Vargas PEDs made up for his lack of experience. Man, listen, a lot of them guys just use PEDs, right? That's why I can't really go in on Pacquiao like that. Even if there's suspicion that he used PEDs, I can't really go in on him. Because like a lot of them before used to do that same shit. You know what I mean? Boxing Monster says Robert Garcia was in the corner. He had no business being in there. He should have kept Bloodworth and Big G. Big G, man. Big G's a smart guy. I give him that. Big G was a tactician, man. You know, but again, Robert Garcia was the same kind of guy. Balls to the wall. I'm gonna fight to the end. Sometimes I look at some of these guys and they don't understand. You gotta learn when to pick your fights, how to fight. You can't just fight one way. Especially if you get hurt. You gotta keep your composure. You're not gonna try and fight your way out of the corner like a jackass. That's like stupid. You gotta pick, you know, when you want to snipe a guy or when you want to throw a combination. And, you know, different guys just don't know how to do that. They don't know how to play. They don't know how to play poker, have a poker face. Because you mentally, if the guy see you get hit and you look like you ain't phased, you didn't even break a sweat. You just look at them with a poker face and you just that mentally affects that guy. Cause he's like, man, I can't get this guy out of there. You know, I can't get this. I remember Juan Manuel Marquez versus Juan Diaz. Juan Diaz said, when is this old man going to give up? When is this old man going to give up? And that mentally messed with his mind. He said, you know, when is this old man going to give up? And he hit Juan with the kitchen sink. What would normally sleep another guy. And Juan just watching him in his face like this and bopping him in his face. Juan got one face. Entire body. He's like, when is this old man gonna lie down? The old man didn't lie down, boy. Knocked him out. All right, you know, it's all this all this mental game you got to play, in boxing. You can't just be, smart fighting, they call it, The Juan Marcus should never have beaten Juan Diaz. Never. But just that IQ and how to just to get away from them big punches and how to, even if you get caught with a big punch, what do you do? Close the distance, close the distance on your opponent, especially if he's not a guy that throws sharp chopping shots. Close the distance on him, take away his power. You see, and that kind of boxing back in the day, guys, they get hurt, man. They start winging like a motherfucker. They just start winging. Say, I'm gonna go out of my shield now. And they start winging shit. And they're not smart fighters, It wasn't smart fighting all the time. Even the throwback fights, when I started looking at Sugar Ray Robinson versus some of them guys, well, I hate to talk about Sugar Ray Robinson, but the black and white film, some of them guys, they just start exploding. Like, when I watched John Bratton versus some other guys, and they just start going at it like mad, wild animals. You know what I'm saying? Ah! I'll be like, that ain't smart. You know what I mean? I just say, if one of them just calmed down a second, they'd counter the other one properly. But they just throw a whole set of punches and be like, man, like really? So, anyways, I came a long ways from what I was saying about Oscar De La Hoya and boxers in general. I just slid off into a whole other thing. But guys, it's nice to see you guys up in here. I want to get you guys' opinion on upcoming fights for this year. We got a couple still big fights that kind of iffy in the atmosphere. Like I started off with the Jones Jr. versus Tyson, Mike Tyson, but that's been put off till November. Okay. Then we had the Teofimo Lopez versus Lomachenko. It looked like it was going to happen October 3rd or something like that, and that's no longer such a case. And then we have the Jorge Linares versus Javier Fortuna fight that's dead, right? Now we're hearing, Devin Haney and all these other guys calling out Javier Fortuna, but it looks like Fortuna's gonna be facing some other guy. It's what it is. Undefeated fighter, I hear. Like, this undefeated fighter thing, anyway, that's another story for another day. But this undefeated fighter thing is bullshit. Okay? And, people harp on these things like undefeated fighter, undisputed champion, lineal champion. I'm not mad at it. But if this undefeated fighter ain't really got no experience at championship level or anything, how much of a value? It's like undefeated fighter. That's cool. That you face an undefeated fighter. Don't get me wrong. It's cool that you face an undefeated fighter. Because they don't know how to lose. But what level of undefeated fighter are we talking about? You know what I mean? If we're talking about an undefeated fighter that was a world champion, that's different. That's a different level of undefeated fighter. Then you got an undefeated fighter that was world champion that faced some former world champions or faced some faces, some people in the sport of boxing. That's a different level of undefeated fighter. You know what I mean? I prefer to see a fighter. I was talking about this. Sinestria Estrada faced an undefeated fighter. 5-0. Blister. Boom. She's gone. People were saying that the commission should never put that fighter in there against Sinestria Estrada. Now here's my thing. I was an undefeated fighter. Would you prefer? Teofimo Lopez versus Vasily Lomachenko, where Vasily Lomachenko is not an undefeated fighter, even though ESPN would like him to be. Or Sinestria Estrada versus this person who she knocked out in a couple seconds, right? Undefeated fighter, right? Even Teofimo Lopez is an undefeated fighter, but I'm talking about Teofimo Lopez from his perspective, Lomachenko. Lomachenko got a hell of a lot of experience. Okay, so he's at the bottom end of his prime, but he's got a hell of a lot of experience in championship fights. That's why I say you guys talk about, oh, he faced this guy in his prime. And I don't give a fuck. Who did the guy in his prime face? Who did the guy in his prime beat? I value Thomas Hearns versus Sugar Ray Leonard 2 more than Thomas Hearns versus Sugar Ray Leonard 1 for obvious reasons, right? Because Hearns got so much more championship experience than when he first faced Sugar Ray Leonard. I mean, come on. So, I mean, a lot of people like to talk about in his prime shit, which is cool, especially if the fighter has declined a lot. Okay, if I'm facing a fighter, for example, that's not at the top of his game, it's not a world champion, it's been 2 years, 3 years removed from his prime or whatever, and he is not performing like he used to, meaning that he's lost a lot and not been able to, with his wisdom or smarts or knowledge, be able to compensate for that, then obviously, okay, fine, yeah, sure. But if you're talking about a guy that's at the top of the game, he's at the top of boxing at the point in time when I face him. Oh, come on, man. You can't be in his prime. Who gives a fuck? Dude makes up for that with experience. Marvin Hagler said that in the fight with James Toney versus Mike McCallum, in which 35-year-old Mike McCallum, okay, 35-year-old Mike McCallum faced a 23-year-old James Toney, draws the fight. Why? And Marvin Hagler kept on repeating it over and over and over in the fight. Experience. Mike McCallum knows how to move around the ring and do certain things that James Toney's going to learn from. James Toney don't know nothing about. Experience. So if you can move around, you got a certain level of fitness. Okay, your experience plays a major key in a fight because you have more knowledge than the other guys coming up, who might be in his prime, but he's learning. He's still learning the boxing game. You know it inside and out. And if he can't push the tempo on you and he can't control you so that he can use his youth and his energy and his size and his power and his strength against you, guess who's going to win the fight? You are, because you're smarter than him. Now, whether you can pull the trigger and actually make that happen is a totally different story. That's why we talk about the physicality of a fighter. They may have declined a lot physically, but if they smart enough, like Bernard Hopkins was, Bernard Hopkins ain't nowhere near the physicality of the executioner, right? The alien B-Hop was nowhere on the level of what the executioner could have done, right? Capability-wise. But what made him able to beat guys like, shit, I don't know why I'm blanking out. Sergio Martinez beat the dude. I don't know why I don't remember his name. Something Kelly. Kelly Pavlik. There you go. Kelly Pavlik. Why he was able to beat Kelly Pavlik was because IQ. Fundamentals, but IQ. How he was able to beat Winky Wright was because of this. He still had a certain amount of physicality and about of physical ability. You gotta have the physical ability. You ain't got it, well, you're gonna get beat the fuck up. But he had a certain degree of physical ability, okay? Plus, he was always keeping himself in shape, always keeping himself well conditioned to prevent the degradation, right? But he had degraded, no doubt about it. But with the degradation came the smarts. So because the smarts was there and the IQ, that overcompensated for what he was not able to do anymore that he could have done in his prime. The sad thing about sports is when you get wiser and you realize how to do things smarter, your physicality is not the way how it used to be. And what used to happen with guys from throwback years and stuff was they fade out really fast. There's several different reasons why that happened. It wasn't nothing to do with the magnitude of fights that they fought. It was more to do with the fact that how they treated their bodies. And that is to say, some of them did not take a break and rest to restore their bodies properly. They kept on partying and they do different business activities and they got themselves, in different ventures and they kept going. So their bodies ran down. Nothing to do with the punishment that was taken so much as how, we know now today, you got to fight. Even if you're a busy guy and you keep on going, you only have 4 hours sleep, to get your body to rest and recuperate a certain degree. Okay. So no matter how hectic it is, like we know a lot more science. Let's just put it that way. Okay. So there's a lot of things you can do, even if you're on the go, on 24/7 to help rejuvenate your body. Then we always have these supplements and all these other things that you can put into your body to help you recuperate and get even in better shape faster. So as a result, we've got guys aging really nicely. Gennady Golovkin's 39 years old. Vladimir Klitschko was 38 years old. And top of the game, we had Mayweather, we had Hopkins, we had Marquez, we had Pacquiao right now. We had several other fighters I could think of off the top of my head that have been doing it and doing it longer and better now because people learning nutrition is very important and how your overall health is important for longevity because longevity is everything. So um, by and large, you got guys now doing it even better and longer, okay, than the guys from the past. Even though some of the guys from the past, they did it way past, like they was way out of their, primes and shit, and they was just doing it. Archie Moore is a perfect example. Sugar Ray Robinson, he didn't have it as good as Archie Moore. Archie Moore, like, if we talking about Archie Moore was like, what, 35 or something like that? 34, 35 when he became world champion, some shit like that. And he went all the way up to 45, 10 years. Undefeated light heavyweight world champion of the world. Okay, never got beaten. He was undefeated. Okay, that's the kind of motherfucker we talking about. Ezra Charles got messed up after Rocky Marciano, so we ain't gonna talk about him. But he was dominant himself at light heavyweight, and finally won the heavyweight champion of the world. But when you look at, there were guys in the past who fought all the way up into their 40s and shit. Some of them was half blind and shit. Henry Armstrong, all them kind of guys. But at the end of the day, when we talk about Harry Kravitz, another one that's crazy, just love to fight. Roberto Duran just recently, he retired, right? Somewhere in 2000, what was it, 2005, 15, 2016? 50 years old, you know what I'm saying? The motherfucker was fighting till till he was 50. You know what I'm saying? I'm crazy ass me. So I'm just saying that sorry to curse my French, but I'm just saying that, dudes do it a lot longer. Of course, to stay at the top of the sport, to be at the peak of your division or the peak of the sport, it's a totally different story. Salman Bey fought till he was 60 or something like that. I think he's still alive. So I mean, you can have people who fight and they just fight. Right now, we got this guy. What's his name? Mayorga still fighting. Ricardo Mayorga still fighting. Yeah, right. Some guys just like to fight, and it's what it is. That's why when I hear Roy Jones Jr. is fighting, I'm like, yeah, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. Y'all saw him. He's still fighting. He's still doing exhibitions, and he got all the cojones and everything. I can't speak Spanish, so and he can, all the passion and everything is really funny. And to see that he's healthier too. He's not like using drugs and abusing his body anymore. These guys could have been phenomenal athletes. Just imagine if they didn't abuse their body, didn't drink and all that, smoke and all that shit. They could have been phenomenal. They may probably be undefeated all now. You know what I'm saying? Probably fight all the way up to the 70s. I'm just joking. But, a lot of times what beat these guys was they wasn't mentally up to it. See what I'm saying? It wasn't mentally up to it. And when I say mentally up to it, I'm talking everything. Like, dedication to the sport, keeping their bodies like a temple, having the right team behind them so they wouldn't get skullduggered. All that stuff. Skullduggered in the ring. What I mean by skullduggered, I mean jobbed in the ring to the outside. See, that's the stuff that I'm talking about. When I talk about, all around the best ever fighter, this is what I'm talking about. You know, not once in all your fights you dropped the ball. Like you didn't drop the ball once. You know, and so that's what I'm talking about. And that's not some small fry kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? But back to the boxing. So yeah, upcoming fights. It looks a little bit iffy right now this year. Maybe as it tapers off to the end of the year when things start to normalize and we can probably stop moving around really a lot more and get back to the social mixing up. I would say though, this should be an informed season where people find and streamline the best possible approach to deal with things. Because people still talking about vaccines, and I'm like, why the fuck do we need a vaccine for this virus? We don't need a fucking vaccine. Most people who get the virus don't die from it. So what's the problem? The problem is the people who are immunodeficient. We know this. This is common sense. So why do we need a vaccine for this shit? This thing's gonna phase out on its own. It's gonna phase out on its own. Some people will have it, some people won't have it. At the end of the day, I ain't taking no fucking vaccine for this virus. I'm sorry, that's not gonna happen. Okay? I use a little shield thing because I want people to see my face. I don't want people to see me in a mask. Fuck that. And plus, I can't even breathe properly in a mask. I'm not wearing no fucking mask. I'm gonna wear a shield. I know it's just as effective as a mask because it ain't doing shit. The only thing is, if I had the virus and I coughed into my shield, it'd be safer. Even though particles might come out to the back and probably down below and come out on top. You know. But otherwise, why the hell would I want to wear a mask? I don't wear no fucking mask for what? You know, and a lot of people look at me like, oh man, but you know, people be dying for the mask, and people be dying without the mask, and I look at fucking masks don't do shit to nobody. The most it can do is stop the spread of it, by you coughing into the mask. It's like if you put your hand in front of your face and, okay, I'm tired of the bullshit. You know, back to what I'm saying anyway. So looking forward to these fights. But I see these fights being, once COVID-19 is in the atmosphere, people keep on getting caught with COVID-19. It could really sabotage a lot of fights that are upcoming. I think people should get proper testing. There are two types of testing that they should use back to back: the immunoassay and the one to test your the immunoassay, and then the second one for the RNA. Okay, so they're using reverse PCR, I think it is, and they're also using immunoassays, which is protein. Okay, so one is genetic material and one is protein. If both tests come up positive, then that person does have it. If both tests are not coming up positive, it means what? You don't have you don't have you don't have you don't have antibodies to the virus. If you make it antibodies to the virus, it means it's there. If you don't have antibodies to the virus, it means that whatever you're seeing, that genetic material, is not virus. It's part probably of your body. It's not a virus. Otherwise, you would have antigens to it. So they need to do like two tests back to back. That would help to solidify it. And then you have to look at the brand of kit that you're buying, because some brands are not they're not accurate. So then you have the proper brand when they're doing their test, because you might do it with a different brand and then find out that the person's negative. So and of course you could have false negatives as well, but I think they say the smaller sampling size, the smaller amount of people that are being tested, is the more you can have error. So if most people in that test don't have it, and then you find that one or two people have it, you have to question that, because the sampling size might be too small. So that's what I got for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. Enjoyed this video. We almost spent 2 hours on it. I'm gonna go get out of here. I have not eaten breakfast. I have just woke up. I haven't eaten lunch, so I have to go get that stuff. You guys want to have another discussion, or you want to have me on one of your streams as well? You guys can just get out there, get your phone together, and we can have a little chop up. I especially encourage Intangible Boxing, Get the Smoke, Tommy Temper, to set up their streams, and let's just have it. I don't have to talk all the time. I like having other people as guests on, and I'll treat once you're on my program and you're a guest, I'm gonna treat you as right as I can. Um, I want you to feel comfortable to express yourself. That's the most important thing, I think, on these podcasts, because you guys hear me all the time. You know what my views are on things, and so I would like to have you guys on there to express yourselves. I gotta go and vote and then come back here, but I hope you guys can have a good day. I'm so happy that a lot of you guys are alive. I hope you're doing well with your families. Stay well, stay healthy, stay positive. Stay positive as much as possible. And enjoy it. Enjoy every moment. Once you're alive, you're healthy, you're well. Enjoy it. Just enjoy life. Just keep it simple. Sometimes. These periods help you to focus in, keep the right sentiment on life. I can mistreat my body a little bit and still have some bad habits that I have to break. That's why you see all these wrinkles underneath my eyes here. That's because of lack of sleep. I've been kind of having sleep wake cycle problems for the last couple of days. But we're back up and running. What you need in the building. If you guys want to talk about anything else, current events in boxing, just hit me up on my channel. You can either inbox me. You can I don't think you can inbox anymore on YouTube. So, but what you could do is probably under my videos, suggest some videos that you want to see happen. Don't forget, this is also a paying channel. So you, if you want to, you can donate to my channel via Western Union only. I got to get that judge in there for Tommy Temper. I remember Tommy Temper always asking me how fights are scored, and I want to get a professional judge in here. You know, if I could get Dave Moretti, I would try and really get Dave Moretti up in here. He's an excellent judge, and I would love to hear his opinion on how to score a fight. We'll just sit back, enjoy him talking about it, and then after that, we could probably use an example and let him judge that fight, and we would just tell him, well, this is what really happened in this fight, and this is how they scored it. And if he kind of scores it along the lines of those judges, who I'm gonna look for a fight that they did a good job with, then it would show that Dave Moretti is, I already know it, he's an excellent judge. He's been A1 from day one. So I would love to get Dave Moretti on here to talk more about that. In the same breath, I just wanted to say, this is random, but that Max Kellerman's doing an okay job, okay? He's doing an okay job with his ESPN show. Not the greatest, but he's doing an okay job. But I just want to say that if it wasn't for Jim Lampley and Larry Merchant, I think boxing would have been so much better. Um, I know a lot of people don't like to hear me say that because they're Hall of Famers and all of that, but I just think that they did not do a good service to boxing. And I think that they favored knockouts and drag out life and death fights. They liked that sort of thing. Um, they didn't like to see one-sided domination. They didn't like to see guys box and show um, great footwork and skill. I remember Larry Merchant once saying that, you know, uh, it's called prize fighting, not a boxing match. And I listened to Larry Merchant and I watched him and I said, it's prize fighting because you're fighting for a prize. And it's fighting. You're throwing punches, you know. And there is, as Bruce Lee said, the art of fighting without fighting, which is where you make people miss a lot of punches and stuff, you know. And we've seen it in martial arts films all the time. With the great sensei, he decided he's not gonna throw a punch, and he catches a punch, and he just squeezes the hand of the guy, and the guy's crippled, you know. And I always enjoy, because I've come from a martial art background, I always enjoyed um, seeing someone disable another guy without doing a hell of a lot. You know, it showed how dominant they were, how superior they were in level. They didn't even have to throw hands. And for me, that was a beautiful experience, and that's what I enjoy about boxing. Now, there are times when there are certain fighters who just annoy me because I see they're limited fighters. Like they can't do certain things. And they try to emulate or simulate boxers who have a command of what they do. So I understand sometimes the frustration by some people watching a fight where a guy's, you think he could do a lot more and he's not doing that. But I'll say by and large, sport of boxing, which is what it's called, it's not called fucking MMA. It's not called fucking kickboxing. It's not called fucking wrestling. Okay, it's called the sport of boxing, which is hit and not get hit. For whoever watches this video for some reason, I want you to understand, I like boxing. I don't like MMA. That's not my thing. Okay, but if somebody can encourage me to see and look at MMA, I'll try. I don't like MMA. Okay, I don't like kickboxing per se. Don't care for wrestling. So I like boxing. All right, that's just what I like. You don't have to like boxing. Okay, I do boxing. And I personally believe that Larry Merchant and Jim Lampley did a disservice to the sport by restricting the style and the approach of boxers to just one particular kind of way of fighting. All right. And I never appreciated that. It never happened with Howard Cosell. It never happened with Joe Tessitore. It never happened with what's his name? Forgot his name now. Oh, okay, Al Bernstein. I'll just talk about Al Bernstein. These guys appreciated the different approaches to the sport, and you're in a fucking ring, in a fucking circle. Sorry about the F bombs. And if you don't like that the guy is running, then cut off the fucking ring. Okay? If you're so-called a knockout boxer, then knock the motherfucker out. Don't let him go around and do laps on you. Okay? But if you can't do that, then he's going to beat you. It's just what it is, unless the judges decide differently. You know, I'm tired of hearing commentators talk about this is a stinker. Listen, I never seen the throwback commentators say that. Never seen them do it. I've never seen. I've never seen ABC or USA or CBS or ESPN. I've never seen commentators talk about this stink out the joint. It was Larry Merchant who was the first guy to talk this shit, and Jim Lampley. Oh, less Jim Lampley. Jim Lampley was more a hype man. But the thing he did with the fight game where he just went on a nasty, I'll never forget it, where he went on a nasty hunt trying to destroy Mayweather's reputation, who is a boxer, who most boxers don't have pearly white backgrounds, okay? It's just like common sense. But, you know, Jim Lampley went in and tried to dirty the guy and make Pacquiao good. I didn't like that. I didn't like that, especially when you're talking about top tier fighters. Okay, I looked at the job that HBO did on Antonio Tarver. All right, I looked at the job they did on Roy Jones Jr. I looked at the job they did on Pernell Whitaker. I looked at the job they did on Mike Tyson. I looked at the job they did on Lennox Lewis. I looked at the job they did on Bernard Hopkins. I looked at the job they did on Andrew Ward. I looked at the job they did on a lot of these good, skilled, Mark Two Sharp Johnson. I'm not saying it's exclusively black fighters, but a lot of them, the top tier guys, was black fighters. They didn't go in. They didn't go on Ricardo Lopez. They didn't go in on Oscar De La Hoya. They didn't go in on. They haven't gone in on Tyson Fury. They didn't go in on Triple G. They didn't go in on Sergey Kovalev. It's only when Max Kellerman left HBO he stopped praising Triple G. Okay, and I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't like that. They started off with Muhammad Ali and he was giving him praise. And then they took that and they flipped it on every single black fighter that came thereafter. But you could never get him to say a bad note about a white fighter. Arturo Gatti, like my boy Boxing Monster said, he wasn't all that. But they give him, Lord, him praise for fucking up a fight where he should have won. And they don't cease to praise him. Sugar Ray Leonard was facing Roberto Duran. I'll never forget how the media, again, precursor to HBO, right? How they treated Sugar Ray Leonard. He was a nice guy. So I remember how HBO treated Pernell Whitaker with the Oscar De La Hoya fight. How Larry Merchant and how Jim Lampley, well, not so much Jim Lampley, but Larry Merchant was like rejoicing that Pernell Whitaker lost. These are things that I'm sorry, them two guys didn't do the sport of boxing service. Now, if we celebrated Pernell Whitaker, if we celebrated these guys, as we celebrated Oscar De La Hoya, who was a phenomenal fighter, as we celebrated Joe Calzaghe, as we celebrated, you know, Triple G. If we would have celebrated these guys like we celebrated them, if we had an even playing field, I would have said Larry Merchant and Jim Lampley We're great for the sport of boxing. But when I listened to Jim Lampley and how unenthused he was that Mayweather beat Pacquiao, and what I say, it wasn't as it I was hyped up to be the greatest hype thing. But everybody knows, everybody that was watching that fight was hyped. It was hyped all the way through the fight. You wondering if Pacquiao catch Mayweather? It was an exciting fight. Mayweather made Pacquiao miss, and in the 11th round he knocked his ass. But it was an exciting fight. We knew it was a wrap after the 11th round. We knew Mayweather won that fight. But here's the thing. I listened to all of these people, Steve Kim and Undisputed and all of his cohorts. All of them. Talking about it was a boring fight. And then they started to try and find IV allegations, and they was living off of that shit. Try to hate Mayweather. Find every excuse in the book for Manny Pacquiao. Because it was fight of the century now. And what we know about fight of the century? The last fucking fight of the century that we heard about, that was titled that, Jack Johnson versus Jim Jeffries. Know your fucking history. That also went to the black man. Not to say that the black man is the best boxer ever in the history of boxing. That's not the point. The point is, then the white man was seen as everything pure, good, and great. Pacquiao versus Mayweather. Pacquiao was painted as the saint, the beautiful person. Mayweather was the villain. Up to this day, they say Mayweather is the heel in boxing. All Mayweather did was shit talk. It's called shit talking. He was good at shit talking. That's it. Mayweather's not a villain. Mayweather was never the bad guy. He just shit talk. Muhammad Ali as Cassius Clay. Shit talk. And predict in his shit talk. It's called shit talking. That's all it is. Supposed to get in your opponent's head. He's not a villain for that. He's not a villain for that. He's just smart. Like Ali was smart. It's called shit talking. Roy Jones Jr. did it a different sort of way. Roy Jones Jr. was like, no, I'm the best. Ninja, I'm the best. You won't have to face me in the ring. I'm the best. That's what Roy Jones Jr. style. He didn't necessarily degrade his opponent, even though he said, you easy work. He was confident. She could come see me then. Right? That was Roy. And he was outspoken like shit. Roy was like so outspoken. Right? They didn't like that. HBO didn't like that. He was a black, humble guy. They forgot about Muhammad Ali, obviously. Because Sugar Ray Leonard came in and he was quiet and stuff, and he showboating the ring and stuff. They wanted a guy like him. You know, they wanted a guy like Shane Mosley. A guy that's quiet, demeaning, he do all his talking in the ring. But that bullshit ended immediately with James Toney, Roy Jones Jr., Bernard Hopkins, Floyd Mayweather, or Pernell Whitaker. Now, Pernell Whitaker, he mostly showed it in the ring, but Whitaker was also a guy who was like, all right, we'll see where, because everybody shit talk. Right? That's just a typical thing. But it's amazing how shit talking is seen as you're the villain. You become the villain because you shit talking. Yeah, okay, you shit talk Oscar De La Hoya, call him this, that, call him a chicken. He had a gold medal with the chicken on it and all that shit. It's shit talking. That's what it is. That's all it is. It's supposed to promote the fight. It's supposed to get people riled up and pick sides. It's shit talking. Doesn't make him a villain. They say, he was the heel, was the villain. How, man? How? So, it was one of those things. It was one of those things where them two guys was the real villains of boxing, in my opinion. And it doesn't change my opinion. I'm never going to change it. It's never going to change. Racism in boxing is not allowed. That's why Paulie Malignaggi don't have a job right now with Showtime. Hopefully he has one with BT Sports or Sky or something. Maybe they employ him. Because he's a good commentator. Been talking some shit of late. Calling fights really dumb, but he's a good commentator. I give him that. And you shouldn't really judge a guy in boxing just based off of his racism or whatever. Otherwise, Sergey Kovalev should be without a job and a whole set of them motherfuckers. But it's a fight business, so you can get him a pass sometimes. But Paulie clearly said he racist, so at least we know that. Some people trying to defend him. Oh, Paulie's not racist. Fuck out of here. Stop with that bullshit. Don't do that. He racist. All right? And ain't nothing wrong with admitting who you are. At least we know who you are. You're racist. Okay, fine. Well, at least we know you racist. I ain't saying anybody's perfect. You racist. But nonetheless, when you do your boxing commentary, hopefully you dead on the point. That's all I want. Just leave your racism out of that. Right? Hopefully he get his job at BT Sports because he be talking about Eastern Europeans. They should like him. If not, well, too bad. That's him. That's on him. He shouldn't have said that shit. Or if he said it, he should have apologized. But if he don't feel like apologizing because he don't think he don't see nothing to apologize about, then ride with that, bro. More power to you, you know. At least you got freedom of speech, right? And that's another thing that we gotta understand. I appreciate that about Paulie. At least he said what's in his head, right? A lot of people walk around, they lying, hypocritical motherfuckers. You know, they got all kinds. See how I show my face? I want you guys to realize this is me, right? I ride or die with what I'm saying. And I can change my opinion over time, but I ride or die with what I say. I'm not afraid to show my face and say my point of view. This is my point of view. You don't agree with it. So, Paul Malonji, that's his point of view. You don't have to agree with it. Okay? If you want to vote for Donald Trump, you can vote for Donald Trump. Country. But the point is, at the end of the day, if people don't want you hired with them because you saying racist shit, well, it is what it is. You know what's the sad thing about that, though? Because it's a very important point. Paulie be telling the truth about how he feel. A lot of people feel the same way as Paulie. And some of them working in Showtime. Motherfuckers be lying like a motherfucker and be hypocritical. But they believe the same thing Paulie believe. Ain't that something? But they keep their jobs and Paul get fired. I'm just saying. Networks don't give a fuck about whether you racist or not. All they care is that they look good. Just saying. But at the end of the day, Paul gets fired. But he's too good a commentator to stay unhired. He's going to get hired by somebody. And they're going to get flack for it. Oh, he's a racist. Blah, blah, blah. And be like, yeah, man, we know that. But he called him fights good, though. Paul is controversial, and that's what it is. Paul has shit that I wish he would say. But that's what he believed. You know, until he changes his mind. I guess that's how that goes down. Right? I hope he changes his mind. Because we are all human beings. And Paul should realize by now, one human being shouldn't be valued more than another. Their lives, at least, shouldn't be valued more than another human being's life. Even though being from New York, and you know how New York say it, like they say it, like they say it. They don't play like California. California, they don't say what they mean. New Yorkers, on the other hand, they say what they mean. So Paulie be saying what he mean, which, I mean, you can't be mad at him for that. He racist. It is what it is. And Paulie, you know what's the thing, though? This is a funny thing. And this only happened in boxing. Maidana will chill out with Adrian Broner. Just whooped his ass. They be partying together. Paul, Adrian Broner. And they be riding together, laughing with each other. Paulie's a racist. But yeah, he's hanging out with Adrian Broner. What kind of fucking shit is this? You know why? Because some things go beyond. And that's what people gotta understand. Yeah, a guy's gonna stay with his tribe. Right? He gonna stay with his tribe. But he still will hang out with you and have a good time. Ain't that crazy? That's the world we live in. And while he wouldn't die for you, he'll have a good time with you. And what I'm trying to say is that People are multidimensional. And I seen a guy go to Ku Klux Klan rallies, a black man, and vibe with Ku Klux Klan members. And some of them actually see the humanity in life and actually stopped becoming Ku Klux Klan members because of that. It's crazy. So it's crazy how we can influence one another. Sometimes, you look at a person and be, man, that person's racist, or that person, man, that man, he beats his women, or this person. Yeah, okay. Right now they do that. But a human being is so complex. 2, 3 years down the road, you look at him, totally different person, it seems. Right? And that's because we have the capability of you can't put somebody in a box. So what I'm trying to say is sometimes we get so judgmental about each other. We're doing like, oh, he's racist and he'll be racist forever. Who knows? We don't know that. You're not God to know if a person will stay racist forever. You don't know what they're going to go through in life. You don't know what their experiences will be. You might meet that person a year from now and you racist and that person ain't. It's just what it is. Life is like that. And don't tell me, oh, I'll never be racist. You don't know what conditions or what situations could happen that makes you racist. You just don't know. Because human beings are just that kind of way. I said, I'll never want to commit suicide. Yeah, well, I tried. Okay? And it's just what it is. Okay? I'm trying to tell you that we're social beings and we can't really, we shouldn't be so hard on each other that we say you are condemned to be this and be it forever. You just never know. It's the truth. I'm just being honest. Um, you know, people have done some heinous shit. Heinous shit. Turn around, regret it, try it, make amends and all that. So my point anyway is this. That these announcers, Jim Lampley and Larry Mercer, probably, maybe they've stopped being racist. Who knows? We never know. I don't know what's going on in their personal life. But what I can tell you is that the way, as much as HBO had a nice format and all of that, the way how they subversively tried to hurt the reputation of boxers who are top tier boxers in boxing, hurt the sport. And we're still recuperating from that. And now I see some of you guys who really understand boxing or really appreciate boxing because it's so beautiful. It's a beautiful form. It's a beautiful art. Looking at it as a fan, it's fantastic. But if you just don't even know what flying hell you've seen in there, I don't want to curse. What you're seeing in there, then what on earth are you gonna do? You're gonna do like some of these casual fans and talk about running and hugging and holding and you're gonna talk about grabbing and you're gonna talk about cowardness and this person is not engaging, I just a lot of stupid ass shit that just don't make no damn sense. I heard people talking about ducking in a way that wasn't even ducking. You can't say these two people are ducking one another. You can't. Unless they facing lesser opposition. You can't duck somebody and then face somebody who's better or the same level. You can't. So why are you talking about Canelo ducking people? You can't say Canelo's ducking. I know you want to say that. I know I want to say it, but you can't say it. He faced Sergey Kovalev, 2 weight classes up, who was the WBO light heavyweight champion and the #1 light heavyweight according to the Ring magazine. You can't call him a duck. You can't call it a duck. Sorry, my friend, you can't call it a duck. And you can't call Lomachenko ducking Devin Haney if he faces Teofimo Lopez. You can't. I really want to say, but he can't say it. But he does. Maybe he does not face Teofimo Lopez. Maybe he ends up facing Devin Haney. But if you face somebody who's not top tier, if you go ahead and face somebody who's top, now you can call it a duck. And then you gotta ask yourself, he didn't want to be undisputed. I thought he wanted to be undisputed. You don't want to be undisputed. So if he faces, you can't call Lomachenko a ducker until he actually ducks. You can't call Canelo a ducker until he actually ducks. We thought he was going to face Demetrius Andrade next. Instead, he faced Sergey Kovalev. I don't think that Sergey Kovalev is a tougher fight than Demetrius Andrade or even Jamal Charlo or any one of them 168 pounders right now. I don't think so. I didn't never thought so because Canelo has handled that kind of style before, and Sergey Kovalev has shown they were soft to the body. I said this over and over again. Now, Kovalev went on and fought a brilliant fight, as far as I'm concerned. Okay? A lot of people say, oh, what the hell are you talking about? He didn't throw his right hand. I was like, I mean he didn't throw his right hand. He tried. He got countered like a motherfucker. You're not going to throw your right hand if you're going to get countered by it. He had to keep his hands home. But that jab and that footwork was on point. Ran out of some steam. Even walked down Canelo in the 10th round. They ran out of steam from them body shots and that constant pressure and those clever punches, those clever counters, which were hard. Okay. So, I mean, when he started to wane, Canelo saw that, went in for the kill, and left no prisoners. Right? He usually starts to fade around the 8th, 9th, 10th. Right? Canelo, science, understood, pressure. Kovalev tried to really make a push for it because he realized in the 10th he was starting to wane. But the 11th round, Canelo knocked him out. Okay? It's what it is. Y'all can make excuses on what you want. That's what really happened in that fight. Now, with respect to Demetrius Andrade, you would never be able to do that against Demetrius Andrade. He's a big middleweight. He could be super middleweight if he wanted to. Can't do that against Charlo. Charlo could jump up to super middleweight tomorrow. Okay? He can't do that shit. Now, Charlo got a style like Kovalev's. That's what he do. He traveling. He's a distance fighter. So Canelo will have his opportunities to get to the inside and do his thing. Demetrius Andrade, on the other hand, he got all-around game and his southpaw. Love to see how that fight turn out. That's the fight I want to see. Billy Joe Saunders is behaving like a flipping idiot, so I don't want to see him for the reasons that he said about domestic violence. I'm like, dude, I don't want to see you. I'm fucking up your chances, so I don't see you. But otherwise, Caleb Plant, who don't want to see him right now, so he's out. Callum Smith would love to fight, so I'd love to see Callum Smith versus him. Or David Benavidez versus him. You know what I mean? Or, yeah, that's about it. So it's David Benavidez, it's Callum Smith, it's Artur Beterbiev, Dimitri Bivol, all these guys are world champions, Jamal Charlo, or Demetrius Andrade, throwing Darren Vanchenko for good measure. Triple G, old as hell. If they want to have it, they can have it just to make the money. But really, honestly, not really interested in the Triple G fight with Canelo. Don't think Canelo's interested in the Triple G fight either. But it is what it is. I would like to see Canelo versus Demetrius Andrade. If not that fight, Canelo versus David Benavidez or Callum Smith. But David Benavidez got to fight this year. Maybe we see it this year. Maybe we see it next year. But one of those guys. So I want young guys to face young guys now. Triple G, waste of time. Seen him enough. You want to ride off in the sounds to do that, but we're really interested in Triple G no more. Okay? Yesterday's use. Thought Darren Vanchenko beat him. Darren Vanchenko versus Jamal Charlo. Great fight. Jason Rosario versus Jamel Charlo. Great fight. Showtime really knocked it out of the park. Now we just got to make sure they stay healthy so we can have that clash. Yeah. Those are good matchups. Tara Gusha versus who's the guy? Hammer. The Hammer. That's a good fight. But like I said before, all these good fights are contingent on these guys passing that COVID-19 test. All of them. So we'll see what happens this year. But Showtime has some really good matchups. TYSON and ESPN, not so much. ESPN was going to have a nice matchup with Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez. I don't know how that's working out. That might have to happen next year. As well as Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury. Might have to happen next year. And of course, Dillian White is going to have to face whoever wins that fight. So he's the mandatory now by the WBC. I'm happy for Dillian White. Congratulations, Dillian White. Now you just got to get past Povetkin. And then you got your shot, brother. After so many years, brother. Looking forward to seeing you in the ring with him. You're going to lose, but hey, still more power to you. And then we got, so much boxing to talk about. I just haven't talked about. We got, what's his name? Yes, we have upcoming. I don't know how exciting this fight is, but this is one I want to look forward to this year. Hopefully they can get it done in the bubble, which is Pursuing 2 versus Taylor. I want to see that fight. That's a fight I want to see. I don't know if we'll see it, but it's a fight I want to see. Anyways, people, I want to wrap it up right here because I've taken more than your time. How much you need. You've been watching my channel. If you like what you're seeing, don't forget to share, subscribe, and you can also donate via Western Union. I'll catch you guys later. Peace. You'll see my finger now.